Guten Nacht, guten Tag. Welcome to the Irish NFL show. It is week 11 of the season. Uh, Michael McQuaid, Colin Cronin, Brian O'Leary, Mark Dial-Up Cockerell. Mark, let's see if you can go 90 minutes without losing your internet connection. I'm joking. Um, Brian clearly didn't get the. If you're listening to the podcast, folks, welcome. And Brian didn't get the invite for the t-shirts. We're all wearing black tonight. Uh, Colin, will I ever get that hoodie that you're wearing? Because I'm still waiting for it. 7 months on. 9 months on.
Well, I think you'll have to probably come down to Dublin to
I
acquire
have
it.
been down many times. Nobody. Do you know what, boys? Nobody's come up. Nobody's come up.
Michael, that top was brought all the way to LA for the purpose of you wearing it, and somehow
It wasn't brought to LA. You forgot. No, hold on. Let's change the narrative.
Imagine somebody listening to this going, "Come on, lads."
I know. I'm joking. It's week 11 of the season. Brian, how are you doing? Are you doing good?
I'm good, Michael. Absolutely in great form. Looking forward to week 11. Looking forward to another great set of games with some very interesting permutations likely to come out this weekend in terms of who's going to the playoffs. We really are getting to that stage of the season now where fans, well, maybe not fans of teams who aren't going to the playoffs, but teams who are on the periphery are certainly looking at what could happen in terms of how the season's results on week 11 will impact their team going forward.
MC, how are you feeling ahead of week 11, baby? Another big win against the Jets.
We'll get to that, Michael. We'll get to that.
I look forward to it because I've got plenty of notes written down to ask you in a few minutes. Let's jump into it. Let's jump into it. Obviously presented by Cassidy Travel, Ireland's numero uno, a Hain travel agents, the best travel agents in Ireland. If you want to go to an NFL game over the next few weeks, or even jump on a postseason, maybe in New York, and then transfer over to another airport, hit them up for a few games. They'll be able to get your flights, accommodation, etc. Cassidy Travel. Just search Cassidy Travel online, cassidytravel.ie. And thanks again for their support of the podcast and of the broadcast throughout the season so far. Let's jump straight into it. Thursday Night Football is an absolute and total doozer, or boozer, or snoozer, depending on which team you support. We got the 6-3 Titans going to Lambeau Field to face the 4-6 Green Bay Football Packers. Colin, the Packers have won 2 of the last 3 games against the Titans. Titans beat the Broncos last week. Packers beat the Cowboys last week. Derrick Henry only had 50, 60 yards rushing against the Broncos. Didn't come out of his shell too much in that sense. You'd be expecting more of him this week. What are your thoughts on this game on Thursday nights, and who are you picking, baby?
Yeah, well, I suppose a couple of hours ago, I might have thought this was perhaps more one-sided than I am now thinking it certainly will be. Look, Green Bay got the win last week. You can say Dallas threw it away a little bit, and I think Dallas will look at it and feel that they, if they had their time over again, I'm sure they would do a whole lot differently. But for the Titans, it's Mike Vrabel. Everything he just finds a way to win. It is the Bill Belichick model, and the Broncos managed to hold Derrick Henry to 53 yards rushing. It did them no good, because this year the Titans are leaning on the defense. I really thought that I suppose the Christian Watson breakout, it'll be interesting to see if that continues. But we talked about on the show on Monday, there was still Aaron Rodgers complaining, having a go at Matt LaFleur. Matt LaFleur was quite emotional as well in the press conference afterwards, which was interesting to see. I really thought the Titans could probably go into Lambeau and get a win, and they still can. But Hooker is out, Jones, Dupree, Bullock, and Johnson are all out. And Mike Herndon, who's been on with us, who is a really good Titans insider, points out that they have gotten by without Hooker and Dupree in the past, but Ben Jones has only missed one game since 2016. Talk about durable, and that was a 30-20 loss to Carolina in 2019. I think losing their center is a really tough ask for them, because we don't really know, is Tannehill fully fit? Obviously there was Henry I think is probably more at a point in his career where he's going to flash. At times it's going to be brilliant, at other times teams will probably be able to stop him more than they had in the past, but if you let him get up ahead of steam, forget about it. I don't think the Packers are anywhere near as good defensively as the Broncos, but they showed that they can score points. With the injuries, I'm going to say the Packers get the win, but Mike Vrabel could prove me very wrong.
Tannehill has been declared as fully fit and has come off the injury list along with a couple of other players, but at the same time, as Colin has rightly called out, that doesn't really play into the fact that they're missing so many other players across the team. The Packers, one thing I would say, which was quite impressive last week, was it's something that we've been calling out time and time again over the course of the past 6 weeks, is that the offense is not balanced. They haven't used the run game, and when they do, it allows Rodgers to get more opportunities to go down the field, and essentially that's what he did last week. 224 yards, 3 touchdowns, and Aaron Jones ran for 138. It was complemented by AJ Dillon with 65 yards for a 200-yard plus game, which they haven't had for quite some time. And you'd like to think, bear in mind, it was so successful last week, that they would stick to that tomorrow night and get a defense off kilter, which is missing, as Colin rightly called out, a number of players, and their secondary is banged up. I'm also with the Packers. I think the Packers are going to find a way to win 2 in a row. I'm not bought in on the Tennessee Titans, even though they have this great record. They're only averaging 18.4 points a game on offense. Kind of lends into an opportunity for the Packers defense to step up in this game. Derrick Henry, they're winning games despite him not having really fruitful games. So be interesting what this Packers run D can do, which is 26th in the league. They haven't had a great success, but I'm still thinking this could be the opportunity for the Packers to go on a little bit of a run and right the wrongs of early on in the season. So for me, I'm also with the Packers.
Well, hold on. Let's not disparage Derrick Henry too much. He had his usual running over of AFC South divisional rivals. He was on course for a third, at least 100-yard game in a row before the Broncos defense really bottled him up last week. Although, as Colin says, the Titans still won. I think the bigger fear is, like, if you go on, again, this is why you can't go on pure stats, but on pure stats, the Titans offense is far behind the Green Bay offense in terms of yards racked up overall. They slightly had them rushing, but like well behind from passing statistics and yardage. And that's a reflection of Tannehill not performing the same level. The Titans offense obviously being very different in nature. Defensively as well, they rank below the Packers in most of the major categories as well. So if you're going purely on ranking in that regard, you'd be going, oh, why aren't the Packers gonna walk this? Fundamentally, because the Titans have been winning as a team, and Green Bay, during their massive losing streak, has been finding ways to lose and has been falling apart in different ways. I think you rightly call out the key themes. There's a big theme in this game as well. Mike and Matt get back together again. Remember, Matt LaFleur used to be Mike Vrabel's offensive coordinator for 1 year before he took the Packers job as well. The only time they faced off before, Matt LaFleur and the Packers did win. But that's a nice little coaching connection to bring them together here. For me, it boils down to a couple of key stats. 4.8 yards per carry. That's what the Packers defense is giving up on average per carry. That is not good statistics against any run-first offense, especially not when you've got Derrick Henry in there. And overall, whilst I call out that the Titans defense ranks behind the Packers overall, they actually have, by yardage at least, the second best rushing defense. So the strength of the Green Bay game and what they leaned on against the Cowboys again was, let's remember to run the ball because we actually have 2 decent running backs and our offensive game, certainly in the passing game, is not clicking. So we need to establish the run to set up the pass, establish the run, drive the ball down their throats. The Titans defense, whilst it's missing people, is set up to try to thwart that type of attempt. Lambeau will be throbbing even on a Thursday night. But given recent form and given recent consistency, especially from the Packers, I am going to go with the Titans and with Mike Vrabel and with Derrick Henry to exploit those key differentials, both in the Packers' run defense and the strength of the Titans' run defense.
We are due a good Thursday night football game, that's for sure. Some of the Thursday night games since the Chiefs Chargers have been absolutely atrocious, and I very much look forward to staying up late and watching this game on Thursday nights. The Packers done very, very well last week to come back against the Cowboys, but for me, the Cowboys completely the bed, and I think there's more to that than what stats on paper say. If you actually sit back and watch the tape, the Cowboys made far too many mistakes, and for me, I'm with Mark. I think tomorrow night, regardless what's going on at quarterback, I think tomorrow night Derrick Henry rushes for over 160 yards. And then when you've got a guy in the back as well, like Hilliard as well, who's got like 150 yards so far this season, that can come in for a couple of snaps in second or third down to take the pressure away from Derrick Henry. I think they have a feast. And I have them covering the spread. The spread's -3, I think, at the minute in the favor of the Packers. I'll take the Titans winning by 7 to 10 points, and quite frankly, putting another marker down on the Packers team, which is massively underachieving. So we're split, which is good, because when we all go for one team together, the other team wins.
That team inevitably loses, Michael. Many fans are pointing this out. You mentioned, we should have kicked off the show as well by reminding everybody, for anybody looking at us, if you want to buy some of the lovely gear being modelled by Colin and myself, irishnflshow.com/shop. If you want to buy some lovely outfits that Brian is wearing, for example, Penny's just have open their click and collect.
I think Brian's wearing Next. Brian's a Next sort of man. I've seen a few things. He's wearing the same navy shirt that I was wearing last week. Yeah. If you are watching Thursday Night Football, enjoy Thursday Night Football. And if you do want to put a bit of a flutter on the weekend's action, you can check out the betting show that we have at the minute with Mr. O'Leary here, Chief Better, Michaela as well, giving our incredible selections. So enjoy Thursday Night Football. Okay. We're going to talk now about the Carolina Panthers are 3-7. Oh, going up against the 6-3 Ravens. This game is in Baltimore. Colin, I was talking to Ravens fans in Deutschland last weekend. Genuinely had a conversation with a lad for about 20 minutes about Lamar Jackson. They're coming into a really, really interesting point of the season when you expect Lamar to take a step up. Guy's playing for his contract. He'll get the contract anyway, anywhere, whatever happens. But this Ravens team, it's a huge opportunity for them this week to go to 7-3, put a marker down in the AFC, especially when the Chiefs play the Chargers on Sunday Night Football.
Yeah, and this is the Ravens team who, in stark contrast to last year, are actually getting healthier at this time of the year. Last year, they just kept having guys go out injured. We know Mark Andrews is back, and if you are a Ravens fan, you know, and the rest of the league may well come to know, David Ojabo looks likely to make his season debut. A young man with immense talent. He would have probably been, a top 15 pick, very likely, if he hadn't torn his Achilles at his pro day. As it was, he fell to the second round. The Ravens took a chance, and before Thanksgiving has arrived, he will be making his debut. One to watch. Probably take a little bit of time to get out, get back to where he was, but immensely talented. I asked a few weeks ago how many more starting QBs would the Panthers have, and unfortunately, injury has undone PJ Walker. Baker Mayfield. What a guy, headbutting his teammates as they came off the field without a helmet. And when asked about it, said, I do that all the time, even when the cameras aren't around. Fantastic. It might help to explain an awful lot about the questions that we've asked of Baker Mayfield ever since he was drafted number 1 overall. I think the Panthers have surprised at times, probably surprised last week. Realistically, they have nothing to play for. Baker is playing for a contract somewhere next year. I don't think it'll be with the Panthers. So he is looking to make sure that he gets paid somewhere next year. But it's not going to be enough, I don't believe. The Ravens, this is an opportunity. They have to make the most of it. And I believe Lamar and his merry men will get it done.
I mean, you couldn't have asked for a better game to come back off your bye week. In a conference, as Michael has rightly called it, was so competitive. Their defense has really improved over the past 5 weeks. They haven't given up more than 23 points a game since which was a bit of a precarious start. We saw what happened in the game against the Dolphins. I put that lot down to Houston and JPP, who's kind of been a player kind of hidden away after his good time in Tampa. He signed the Ravens, slow start. He's really come to the fore. Roquan Smith had a great game in his opening game, in his debut against the Saints. It's all pointing in the right direction. And I know we're just games this season where we've been flabbergasted by the results, but I can't say it here. They're going up against Baker Mayfield, as Colin has rightly said. I mean, some people were suggesting Baker Mayfield will be the comeback player of the year. Well, I think he has to come back to be in the list to be the comeback player of the year. He's had an atrocious time down there as well. And I see Sam Darnold's backing him up on Sunday. I wouldn't come against the realms of possibility at this stage. We even saw Sam Darnold come into the game at some stage. It's the Ravens all day long for me. I can't see any other result but a comfortable win, and Lamar runs away in this game.
I want to go through the NFL history books to actually find, because it's the first time they've been in this model, that the number 1 overall pick is being backed up by number 2 overall pick. Like, I'm sure that quarterback, I'm sure it's never happened before. However, I'm also sure that the expectation levels have never been as low as they are in Carolina in terms of the performance from the quarterback position. I can see a way in which the Panthers win this. And the way in which I can see them winning this is because of the strength of their defense. Like, this quietly is one of the best defenses in the NFL. For everything they're blowing up on the offensive side, and, you know, we've already seen the trades they've done and the come one, come all, roll up, everyone can win a ticket here. They refused, allegedly, to trade Brian Burns, even for 2 first-rounders. They're refusing to blow up that young defensive core. And they've certainly got some, you know, strong performances from the running game in the last couple of weeks ever since C-Mac was traded. So to say I can't see, you know, I know Brian, you just said you can't see a way in which they win. I can if their defense puts pressure on what will be probably a pretty one-dimensional Ravens offense without Mark Andrews there. Like, they don't have a threat.
He's back. He's back for Sunday. He's back.
He's back. Oh, bugger. Okay, well then, yeah, okay. They're 1.5 dimensions. So let's go for 1.5. But you know they're going to lean on the running game. The Carolina defense are impressive. Is it enough? No, I don't think it's enough. But I definitely think it deserves credit in that regard. Points Colin makes about the Ravens defense rounding into shape, or maybe it was Brian. Sorry, guys. Very well taken as well. Certainly, they've been very impressive against the rush, which we know Carolina will lean on. And it looks like they're just on a nice, slow build. And they need this as well. I mean, we said many times already this season, can't see a way in which this team can win. We were saying it about the Eagles and Commanders only on Monday night. And yet we get surprised. But the Ravens are really motivated. The Bengals have been getting their act together again. They want to stay atop of the AFC North. They want to get as much home advantage during the playoffs as possible. And they don't want to have the late season swoon, albeit with Lamar's injury that they had last year. So I can see a way, but overall, I'm on the Ravens as well.
I think the Panthers will do a lot better than everyone thinks, to be honest with you. I mean, the Ravens have a bottom 5 pass defense in the league. 258 passing yards allowed per game. They're not, like, they've been quite inconsistent in that sense. I mean, look at that Browns game. They should have lost that game against the Browns. There have been situations in obviously, of course, the Panthers beat the Buccaneers. The Panthers won last week when nobody else in the show gave them the chance. So, I mean, I think it'll be a close game. I don't think they'll win the game, but I do think they'll take them closer. And I think Baker Mayfield needs to be given props for the performance that he made last week against Atlanta. He may have had a bit of a mess up at the end with his head, but he still put a lot of effort in, and, you know, that has to be applauded. I think Mark Andrews come back into the game is the X factor for this team. You know, at the end of the day, it's impossible to cover everybody when you've got Mark Andrews there. He is the main standout for me in this team. But look, just wait and see what happens. You know, Baker Mayfield has only 6 passing touchdowns so far this season. Maybe he can get another couple, or maybe even 2 or 3 in his record this week. I think the Ravens will win by a field goal. I think the Panthers will take them close. I really, really do. I don't think it'll be a blowout. But then again, who knows? I'll take the Ravens to win. Yeah.
Unanimous curse of death, Michael. Unanimous curse of death.
Well, if it helps anybody out, I'm going to be watching Ecuador against Qatar anyway. So is that like 5:00? So I'll see.
I know we're not all split, but it sounds to me like me and Colin are expecting a very comfortable win for the Ravens, and you two are expecting to scrape at home. No.
Colin, do you want to
I'm not expecting a huge Ravens win. I just think, Baker. When was Baker last in? Like he came in at halftime. What 2 weeks ago?
Yeah.
And the game was over at that point.
It's 35-0 at halftime.
I would just expect the Ravens to do it. I think to me I expect the Titans Packers game to be closer, but I'm not expecting the Ravens go out and put a beat down on the Panthers either.
Okay, let's jump on to the third game that we're going to look at on Sunday. That is the Cleveland Browns going up against the Buffalo Bills. Bills losing against the Vikings last week in what was a great game. Colin, the Bills will want to get back to form. Another home game for them. They'll be looking to put up a beatdown, arguably, of the Cleveland Browns before Deshaun comes in a few weeks. And I for one, am very much looking forward to Deshaun Watson coming into this league, because he's going to have to prove a lot of people wrong, including myself. The Browns made their bed, Colin. Let's see, can he do anything against the Bills on Sunday?
They probably can, because there is 6 feet of snow forecast for Buffalo. I have seen talk that the game might be moved, potentially, which would be a shame, because they're watching snow
to Monday, maybe, or
to a new venue in terms of safety for fans. So it'll be interesting. I can't see that. I mean, games have taken place. I remember Shady running through snow mountains basically a few seasons ago. Those snow games are part and parcel of why we love the league. But I think equally for this Bills team, they would have much preferred if the snow doesn't happen, because the running game is not their strength other than Josh Allen himself. There was that photograph, if people may have seen it, of the two Cook brothers with their mother after the game last week, and it's very easy to tell which brother won the match. I think, look, the Bills really have to win this because it isn't about the number one seed, it's about the division. Because they're in a fight for that division now, particularly with the Dolphins. But I'm sure the Jets are going to feel that they have a say in it, and Mark will probably feel that the Patriots, oh my goodness, Michael, write down the date. Mark officially wrote off the Bill Belichick on this date. I would say the Bills absolutely should win. But if we get the type of snow that is potentially being forecast, Nick Chubb and the Browns, if we knew, and obviously we're recording this days beforehand, so to me, if it's not regular weather or a little bit of snow, Bills. If it's Snowmageddon, Browns and Nick Chubb.
Well, Colin, you've taken a lot of my notes away, but I'll still run with it, and I'll back you up for a lot of things. They're saying not only is they expecting 48 to 72 inches of snow to fall during the game, the NFL said they don't plan to change the time or the venue, and they're also expecting 30 miles per hour winds, and they're kind of comparing that to last year's game, in which the Patriots went in there and threw the ball only 4 times, and essentially the better running team, 3 times, sorry, the better running team won the game on the merits of that, even based on the weather. And that was the Patriots. And this is the thing, Chubb and Hunt are arguably 2 of the best running backs in the league, and let's be fair, the Bills don't have a running game. These played in a snowstorm game in 2007. The game finished 8-0 to the Browns, and I am going to pick the Browns to win the game on the basis that we are going to see this snowstorm. 8-0, 8-0, I mean, we're going into meltdown situation, but we saw an 8-0 team have a meltdown on Monday night, so why not this Sunday with the Bills, who are expected to go to the Super Bowl? I'm picking the Browns.
I just want for the record, I did not write off Bill Belichick. I did not write off the Patriots. I do not think the Patriots are necessarily the favourites to win the division. However, I still see a path to get a wild card. Just record that for the record as well. It's like we've got a stenographer or something. We're recording stuff for the record. Anyway, yes, the Browns are invoking the awesome powers of Zeus, who among many things was also the Greek god of weather. That's where the lightning bolts and the thunder came down, but he was regarded as the god of weather at the same time. So they're obviously hoping that he brings down, as Colin alludes to, not just the snow, but the rain and the hail and the wind to make it as miserable as possible. Because you guys are absolutely right. Like, the Bills don't have a running game. Their running game is called Josh Allen. Let's be clear. Like, he is their leading rusher. Every game he is their leading rusher. And it begins and ends there. And if that passing game is, unfairly, should we say, it's disrupted by the weather, that impacts the Bills far, far more than it does the Browns. But, desperate teams do desperate things. Even though the Browns have lost 5 out of 6 games, they're not desperate in this. Like, they're out the running. Like, let's just call it now. They are not going to have aspirations of coming in the wild cards. They're still, in many respects, trying to rebuild and trying to refigure out their strategy at quarterback, and they've still, unfortunately and sadly, because we thought they would start to turn the corner, of quite a dysfunctional organization. The Bills have a lot of aspirations, dreams, and wishes. They are playing at home. They're playing a team that's lost 5 out of their last 6. They are themselves on a 2-game losing streak and needing to bounce back significantly from it. And I bank much more, weather conditions be damned, on Sean McDermott and Josh Allen, and the consistency this franchise has shown over the last couple of seasons in particular to find a way through this and to get back on the road and continue what was looking like, a fantastic division. AFC East and the NFC East going right down to the wire to the end of the season to see who is going to emerge from it. So count me in for the Bills.
Love to be in your houses, lads. You watch Weather Channel every day, or what's the crack? I thought I would get a laugh at least.
Anyway, NFL news, Michael.
No, I mean, I literally have been on Twitter all day, but it might snow. I mean, it might not even snow, and it's Buffalo. If there's one city or one area in the States where it snows, where it doesn't really matter, it's Buffalo. The fans will be going nuts. The lads will be grand. Josh Allen will have over 120 yards rushing. Devin Singletary will have over 140 yards rushing if needs be. Hell, give it to McKenzie to run for a wee bit. Duke Johnson, he can run. Jesus, lads. I mean, come on. The Browns, okay, have the fifth best run offense in the NFL with around 160 rushing yards per game, but they still, with no snow, by the way, they still give up about 130 yards per game. So if it snows, can we add like another 30 to that? The Bills will win this game, but it will. To be fair to the meteorologists on this broadcast and listening to the show, high bar best, House of Horn bar. I love bar so much. It'll be the under. The current over-under total is 41.5. It'll be like 23-7 to Buffalo. Is that okay?
I do think the Bills are favourites, but it is enormously concerning that you're saying about passing it to people to run. Like, they don't run it well. Devin Singletary he has, I mean, Josh Allen has nearly 70 attempts running. Their number one RB has 92. I mean, and he's their RB1. And he only averages 4.3 a carry. Cook has 33 attempts. Moss has 17. And McKenzie has 5. This is a team who, that if they, and we thought they obviously brought Cook in and preseason thought maybe they had addressed their biggest weakness, but it hasn't worked thus far, and it could be the one, like, I suppose, their real Achilles heel when it comes to the playoffs.
I think the fact that they're trading on deadline day for Hines from Indianapolis says it all about the fact that they're not happy with their run, with the number of players they have who are contributing to the run game. They wouldn't be going out making trades on deadline day, on the trade deadline, unless it was something that was concerning. Michael, if the weather isn't adverse, I think we're all picking Buffalo. I know Tui's are picking Buffalo anyway, but I just think, we've seen precarious games like this before where teams don't go to the form which we expect. But again, we'll see what the weather is come Sunday.
Any given Saturday, mate. Colts playing the Eagles this week. Eagles 8-1 after Monday Night Football. Really, really weird game. I don't know if anybody, I watched it live and didn't tweet because I was doing a vlog. Barely seen the game. Calm, seen the third, fourth quarter. I mean, my God, the manner in which they lost was incredible because like they should have won the game and they were given like 4 or 5 opportunities at the end to win it. But you have to give it to Taylor Heineke. I know we'll talk about Washington in a bit on this broadcast. They're not in the bye week, are they? No, but great result for them. I'm not really concerned about the Eagles. Like, I mean, I don't want to give away my pick away. I'll let you talk.
Well, yeah. Look, I think the undefeated talk was always crazy, and to be honest, they getting that off their back will help. Losing a division game is not the way you wanted to go about that, though. And look, the Commanders, I think, deserved their victory, though the refs missing the face mask and then reviewing the play, but refusing to acknowledge the face mask and refusing to acknowledge that they missed it in the post-game comments,
Sky Judge.
Even though the guy is now on IR as a result. Absolutely incredible. Fantastic. It's good to know that whether it's the NFL, the Premier League, or refs in Croke Park, they will do whatever they want, whenever they want, and deny that they ever made any mistake in the history of anywhere, anything. Taylor Heineke, that was stupid, right? He went down his knee, which was strange, but the Eagles had enough time to not, to pull out of actually hitting him and just lay a glove on him, and that would have been fine. Though I agree it was odd. They need to get back to business this week. The Colts were, and I said this on a Broncos podcast. If you're Jeff Saturday, he looked more competent than both the Raiders head coach, but also the Broncos head coach. I am interested to see how it looks the second time around. I think talked about it. Bringing Matt Ryan back in has been hugely influential. There's been some interesting reporting, Stephen Holder coming out this week about who was asked to call plays, and essentially people were told, yeah, you can have the opportunity to call plays, but you won't get a change in title. Oh, and there's no more money in it. So there's people running organizations at the moment making all sorts of bizarre decisions. I don't think the Eagles will be as generous as the Raiders were, but I do think they will. The Colts will battle, and I think the Eagles will have to work for it, but I do believe they will get back on track.
There's been some frailties with the Eagles teams over the past fortnight, which I'm not sure if people are picking up on, but Jordan Davis, the first round rookie, was missing against the Texans, and they allowed Pierce to go for 120 yards. He was missing on Monday, and Robinson went for 154 yards rushing. And Dallas Goedert has been their most influential player over the past 2 weeks. He's gone on IR for the next 4 weeks. Devontae Adams had 39 yards against the Texans. He had 22 yards on Monday. Jalen Hurts ran for 26 against the Texans. He only ran for 23 on Monday. They struggled to put the Texans away until 8 minutes to go in the fourth quarter. You asked them on Monday, Michael, whether I could see a scenario where Washington could win. I said, yeah, I think they'll hang around because they haven't been putting up the huge numbers on offensively in which they had been at the early start of the season, and it came to pass on Monday night. They're going up against the Colts team with Jonathan Taylor, who's Offensive Player of the Week, so there's an opportunity there for them to exploit this run defense, which isn't the same without Jordan Davis, who's gone for the foreseeable. I'm still with what I said on Monday. I still think the Colts will find a way to win this game. They're a desperate team. They need wins. And I'm not saying the Eagles bubbles, of course, but there has been things over the last few weeks where they haven't been playing at the level they have. And Colin can call out certain decisions by referees on Monday, but I thought Washington fully deserved the win overall over the course of the game.
What Washington did brilliantly is they took advantage of the Eagles' sloppiness. 4 turnovers in the game, which was uncharacteristic for what they've done so far. They only had 3 turnovers in the 8 games prior to that, and the Commanders made full advantage of it. You rightly called out the face mask stuff. I mean, Quez Watkins as well. Like fumbling after a 51-yard completion, that's that's sloppy. I mean, that's equally the point where I feel that you can make a case that, well, the Eagles should have taken greater advantage of that, but fair play to the Commanders for forcing the fumble and taking advantage of that situation. At the end of the day, it's in the books. The Eagles are unbeaten no more. Didn't necessarily think they would go unbeaten, but it was trying to see who would beat them because obviously they were favoured heavily in all of the games to date. Turns out that didn't last too long. But they've been the class team in the NFC. They've been the class team, arguably, in the NFL, obviously, in going 8-0 there far. And, I often say one swallow doesn't make a summer, but one loss doesn't screw up their entire season. They're playing a Colts team. Let's not forget, are head coached by Jeff Saturday. He's not going up against Josh McDaniels this weekend. He's not going up against a dysfunctional Las Vegas Raiders. And unfortunately, he's going to come crashing down to earth. The Eagles are going to annihilate them.
What I really enjoyed from watching on Monday night was the dynamic play from Brian Robinson, the effort that he put into every carry he got to get as much out of everything. What I meant by when I said they should have put them away, the Eagles are the best offense in the NFC by a country mile. They had numerous opportunities. Jalen Hurts had numerous opportunities on Monday night, and he threw a pick. And Washington let them into the game so many times towards the end because, yes, they were only getting field goals. The defense came up for the Eagles a bit. And it was a really, really good game to watch. And that's, I think it was the touchdown at the end of the second quarter. You started to think, Jesus, they could really come into this. And it was an excellent result for them. I'm with Mark. I just don't see, I'm not concerned after one game. I'm not concerned about the Bills after last week either. Teams are always going to have their up and down weeks. But, from watching teams over the last 10 or 11 weeks, I mean, it's clear that there are 4 to 5 teams in the league that are above everybody else. That's the Bills, the Chargers, the Eagles, and the Cowboys, probably in the 4 out of there. I mean, I would take that at the minute. Maybe I could put the Ravens in there if Lamar keeps playing the way he is. Yeah. So in terms of this week, the Colts done very, very well to win last week, but they were playing against the Raiders and Josh McDaniels. And, Jeff Saturday hasn't a clue what he's at. He's bringing people in to help him. If that's how you're going to win a game, that's fair enough. But that's like playing FIFA against the computer on easy mode. Like that, it doesn't work like that. I think it'll be a blowout. I think the Colts are in for a shocking few weeks here, and I just think the decision to bring in Jeff Saturday is atrocious. And I think the Eagles will be spurred up to try and come back from what was obviously a great win for Washington. Okay, the Jets are going up against the Patriots this week. I'm really looking forward to talking about this game because I can't remember the last time the Jets won against the Patriots. So I'm really intrigued to see who everyone's going to pick this weekend. The Jets are 6-3. The Patriots are 5-4, and both teams, Colin, are coming off their bye week. What do you think?
Yeah, I think from what I understand, Mark, you might know this. I think they stretches back. It's similar to the Broncos and the Chiefs, right? I think the last time the Jets won was 2015, which again is the exact same in terms of the Broncos and the Chiefs. And for anyone who is listening who might hear noises in the background, that is my border collie Sheriff, who is sound asleep and snoring and is dreaming, I believe, of chasing rabbits. But for the Jets, there's been, this has been a season of improvement overall. I do think there are questions over the quarterback, but I think the rest of the team has come on in leaps and bounds. Their defense is good, and they've managed to deal with injuries. So you lose Breece Hall, and they're still able to run the ball, and he was one of the most exciting young running backs around. They had huge expectations just a few weeks ago when they were playing the Patriots, and they let themselves down badly. I don't know if anyone saw Bill Belichick in front of the press today, but he was doing his usual Bill Belichick type stuff when somebody asked, what's it like to face the opponent so soon, a division rival so soon again. He said, they'll probably have some wrinkles. We'll have some wrinkles. It'll be a close game. And in the way that only Bill Belichick can. I do think it'll be a close game, division rivalry, etc. I think you can make a case for both of these teams, but things have to change eventually. And in the season where parity has been the word that has been uttered more than any other, I am going to say that the Jets finally managed to get their long-awaited victory over their division rival and take another step towards that elusive playoff spot?
I made a mistake of picking the Jets a few weeks ago. I'm not going to be fooled again by this Jets team. As good as they are this season, and Zach Wilson only threw the ball 25 times against the Bills 2 weeks ago. They ran for 174 yards. There's a complete reliance, with all due respect to the quarterback, on the run game. And in fairness, okay, Garrett Wilson had a reasonably good game. But I don't see a situation on Sunday where they're going to be in a comfortable position to be able to run the ball up and down the field on a Patriots team. And that will lead to Wilson essentially have to be in a position to try and win the game for them. And then, unfortunately, where the Jets are, he's a quarterback which, as well as they're doing, there's still a lot of fans, a lot of question marks whether he's the long-term answer for them. And the Patriots are at home. They've got a really good running game. And Stevenson and Harrison in particular. Stevenson is having a really fantastic season. I'm looking at the numbers. I mean, they're both averaging 21 points a game. They're only defensively giving up 19 compared to 18. It's the kind of game that will come down, for me, it'll come down to a last second score, potentially a field goal, late score. It'll be very close. I don't think the Patriots will run away with it, but I think being at home is a huge factor going into Foxborough. I just don't see the Jets in the position to do it. I think the Patriots will win a close game.
So a couple of weeks ago, Brian, I made the same mistake. I picked the Jets to beat the Patriots. I was delighted I was wrong. Let's be honest about it. But I did equally see the same analysis of the same two teams and thought the Jets were on a roll and they were going to beat the Patriots and break the streak, which Colin rightly identifies. It does go back to 2015 when they won in overtime. 13 straight games for the Patriots over the Jets since then. But this is like, investment in an equity fund or something like that. Past performance does not necessarily guarantee future success. And the reality is that this is not, I think I used the expression earlier, this is not your daddy's Jets. This isn't our generation's Jets. This team is built to win. They were impressive even with Joe Flacco at quarterback. The offensive line is causing holes. Their defense still remains on course. And Robert Saleh, I've said it before, is a fantastic coach. There's no other way of saying it. He is a really, really, really good coach. And he's rounding into a decent head coach in that regard. In what is the most competitive AFC East in a long time, I mean, we need to go back 25 years when 4 teams made it out of the AFC East, actually, into the playoffs. Or 4 teams made it out when it used to be a 5-team division. To see something as competitive as this, or when 3 teams tied. I think in 2002, one of the years the Patriots didn't make the playoffs, 10-6, 9-7 they were. Sorry. This is a great season. This is a great season for neutral fans. It's a great season for every fan in the AFC East. That we're all in the mix. It's going to be tense, and these divisional games do count double effectively. On balance, it is hard to say. I mean, when I look at the same analysis I did 2 weeks ago, the Jets still have a lot of natural advantages in this. Patriots passing game still isn't functioning right. The running game is. The defense has been the big surprise for me, but they've got doubts about a couple of key pieces in the front 7 who can shore up the run defense. I don't want to be a Patriots homer and say we're going to obliterate them. This is going to be an easy win. Something stupid like that, because it's not true. This is going to be a super competitive game. But I do think Zach Wilson is... Bill Belichick is in Zach Wilson's mind, at least. If Zach Wilson isn't necessarily in the Patriots defense pocket, he's performed appallingly in games against the Patriots thus far in his young career, including 4-interception game, a 3-interception game. He makes mistakes and then compounds those mistakes, and the Patriots are coached well enough and they seize upon them and they exploit it. That is the biggest difference maker in this regard. The Pats are at home. They won away only 2 weeks ago. I will therefore flip my pick. So I'm guaranteeing the Patriots almost to lose, but I'm going to flip my pick now for the Patriots to win at Foxborough, move to 6-5, take the Jets down, and that AFC East just concertinas together a little bit more.
The AFC East has been really, really interesting to watch so far this season. If you had said in week 2 or week 3 that the Dolphins would be on top of the Bills coming to week 11, I think I would have called you a crazy man or a crazy woman. And now the Jets are 3rd, the Patriots are 5th with a winning record. We were all talking in the preseason about the AFC West being the best division of football, and the most enjoyable and the most intriguing division at the minute has to be the AFC East. I think the thing for me is it's funny because in terms of total offense, the the Jets have more yards on average than the Patriots in the first 10 weeks, but the Jets are way worse than third down, and I think that's going to be the situation for them this weekend. I agree with what everyone's saying about Zach Wilson. I just believe that the Patriots will find a way on Sunday to stop the Jets getting down the field. And I think it'll be a close game. I think it'll be like 2017. But I think the Patriots go to Mark 6-5, and overtake them in the third place in the division. And very much looking forward to this game. 6-4. Okay. All right, lads. The next game that we're going to talk about is the Lions going up against the Giants. The Lions are 3-6, the Giants are 7-2. Colin, the Lions are going for 3 wins in a row, putting up a lot of points in certain games, and they're as consistent as a microwave on its last legs. Good win last week. What's your thoughts?
Yeah, and a road win last week, which is what they needed under Dan Campbell. And for the Lions, we talked about it before, there was a lot of maybe hype around them coming into the season. Hard Knocks probably had something to do with that, but they were building towards the end of last season. They certainly looked much better in the latter stages of last season. So the expectation was that, we were going to see a much improved Lions team. They played amazing offense for the first few weeks of the season. They were the league's great entertainers, but they were terrible on defense. They made some changes. They've shored up the defense. The offense, at overall continues to be really good. This is a big test. I think maybe a test for both teams, because the Lions have shown that overall they can score points unless they, unless things go really badly, which, they had the game where they didn't score at all. But I think for the Giants, this will be more of a test than maybe the Lions' record would suggest. We saw obviously Kenny Golladay getting pulled at half time last week, but the Giants finding ways to win. I definitely think the Giants should win this game, and they probably will win the game. But I do think Detroit will look at it and say, yeah, okay, we might be underdogs, but there's no reason why we can't go and beat this Giants team. And if listeners or viewers haven't seen the video of Saquon calling Daniel Jones Vanilla Vic, it is definitely worth a watch. And Daniel Jones doesn't really know how to react to it. I am going to say the Giants, but I think the Lions will run them mighty close.
The Lions' offense concerns me in this game, bearing in mind how well they played this season. But then I look how well the Giants' defense have played, in particular in home games. And I look at when the Lions have gone on the road against really strong defenses, and those two defenses that I call out is the Patriots, where they scored 0 points, and when they went into Dallas and they only scored 6 points. I see it as a real opportunity for the Giants to shut them down. And I look at the Lions defensively, they're the worst defense in the league, 32nd, they're 31st against the run, 27th against the passing, and they're the worst team in the league on third down defense. As Carl Banks said this week, you only cook in the fridge what's available to you, otherwise you starve. So the Giants should just continue what they're doing every week, and that's run the ball and continue to run the ball against one of the weakest run teams in the league. And to do that, should open up opportunities for Daniel Jones, who's playing really efficient football. And there's a lot of players coming back. Giants have been struggling with injuries for quite some time now. It's a strange one, because usually at this stage of the season teams are getting weaker, Giants are getting stronger, with a lot of players coming back. 2 offensive line guys due to come back this week, and Evan Neal and Shane Lemieux, and one of the defensive players who played early on in the season got injured. He's due to come back, and Ojulari is due to come back, and they've also made some more signings this week, players that will probably likely come in and contribute immediately who've had careers elsewhere. So for me, tough game, low scoring game, Giants find a way to win.
A Vanilla Vic, what a line. Is that because every time he gets into open space, he just sees Ice Ice Baby and slides without anybody touching him in open field? Look, yes, Lions continue to be the most entertaining red zone team in all of eternity, generally. They've always been entertaining and exciting like that. But I think there's a serious question to be asked about how we match up and think about teams this year at the moment. There's a great degree of parity around the NFL. And when we talk about the NFC East, we're going just out of a week where the Cowboys have lost to the Packers, who are on a 5-game losing streak. The Eagles' view of perfection, or the potential for perfection, has been subtly pierced by losing to the Commanders. And the Giants, and Brian, I mean, a lot of the stats go like, yeah, they're 7-2, and wins matter more than any stat in the world. Don't get me wrong, wins matter the most. But they're only averaging like 20 points to conceding 19 points a game. They're conceding 20 more yards than they're actually making. It's been very much a team based on situational football, like, turning offenses, touchdowns into field goals and making the big plays when they needed to. Before this season, Daniel Jones didn't. There's been a number of games this year where he stepped up in the fourth quarter, surprising many, and he's made the clutch plays. But let's not get this wrong. They are so driven around Saquon, so driven around the running game, that if that does not function at some point, there's serious problems. And you saw that against the Seahawks when they were shellackled quite badly, I would say, in relation to that game. The good news is they're playing the Lions. And the one thing is they've got a really bad defense and especially bad run defense. So whilst I think there are caution flags even around the current 7-2 record, but you can't argue they've got the 7 wins on the board. This isn't necessarily the game to expose them and to limit the Giants' role at present. End of the day, they're one game out of the number 1 seed in the NFC at the moment, but sterner tests will come in the future. A win this weekend, they still got to keep getting better though.
I'm really excited to watch this game this weekend because it's funny like how poor the Lions have been defensively in terms of letting so many points in so far this season. Their offense is really, really exciting to watch. They're on their day. They're electric. Jared Goff's got like 2,500 passing yards so far this season. Daniel Jones, okay, he's only got like 1.6, but he's handing the ball off a lot of the times and he's done very well, and there's a clear improvement with the Giants. And the thing that stands out for Brian Daboll is the fact that they get the most out of the team, and he finds the extra length or the extra yard for each player to perform at their best rate. This game could go one or two ways. It could go where, as people have mentioned here, about handing off to Saquon and getting some yards. That's fair enough, but there's going to have to be situations where Daniel Jones is going to have to use how efficient he's been over the last few weeks and get the ball down the field. I think Aiden Hutchinson goes up big, but I do feel that the Lions win a close one, and I really hope in a neutral capacity this is a 31-27 either way game, which is enjoyable to watch because just being at the house for the first time in a few weeks watching the NFL, I want it to be an exciting game to watch. But when you've got that Lions team that on its day can be really good with Amon-Ra Raymond, and the fact that Jared Goff can do a few runs himself, I'm just looking forward to this game. I'll take the Lions to win 31-27. All right, we're going to go quick around now. Colm, you're going to do the Bears against the Falcons.
Yeah, Michael, you mentioned 31-27 earlier on, and that's the type of game I can see this being. These are two teams who offense is what they do best, and for the Bears, we talked about it before, it's all about Justin Fields. It's all about his development and seeing which of the players that are currently on the roster are going to be there in 2023. We know about the cap space that they have for the Falcons. Arthur Smith came out and was very bullish in terms of his comments about people wanting a QB change and people too quick to jump into crisis mode. I think the Falcons need a win much more so than the Bears. And as I've said before, ideal scenario for the Bears would be the type of score that you talked about. So if the Falcons were to win 31-27, but Fields continues to prove that he is the guy that is exactly what the Bears will want. I believe that's something along those lines. I have no idea exactly on the score, but I think it'll be high scoring, and I'm going to say that the Falcons get the win.
I'm with Colm. I select the Falcons to win this game. You're not going to give your pick, Mark?
Sorry, I was coughing, nearly dying there for a second. I'm going to go with the Bears.
I'll go with the Bears as well. Brian, you're going to go with Raiders Broncos?
Yeah, I mean, what can you say about these two teams this season? Unfortunately, so much expectations going into the season for both teams, whether you're a Raiders fan or Broncos fan. So much expected of Russell Wilson, so much expected of Josh McDaniels in his second stint as head coach, going in there with a GM and bringing in Devontae Adams, and it just hasn't materialised. Two coaches, it looks inevitably like they will lose their jobs at the end of the season. Now, the Raiders have since come out today to say there's a report today that the Raiders can't get rid of him because they haven't got the money to pay his contract. That's how much of a struggle it is for them. I look back at the first game, and in fairness to the Raiders, like the few bright spots they've had this season, the one was where they put up quite a huge numbers offensively against the Broncos in a defense that has been a standout defense. When we lauded up on Monday night, unfortunately, about the fact that they lost to the Titans, but yet they did so much, like controlling Derrick Henry. The Raiders seem to put up huge numbers. It's probably the only bright spot they've had this season. I'm not sure about Jerry Jeudy, whether he's going to play, so I'm concerned about Broncos' inefficiencies on offense. They don't seem to have a consistent run game. I'm looking at the average points. The Raiders are putting up 22 points a game offensively despite their struggles, and the Broncos are only putting up 14. And whilst I could see a scenario where the Broncos win a low-scoring game, I'm going to side with the Raiders. I think the Raiders right now have an Indian sign over the Broncos when it comes to playing them. To beat them twice last year, if I'm correct. And I see a same scenario this season. I'll go with the Raiders to win this game.
Broncos to win this game.
Broncos for me.
Raiders blowout. And Mark Davis made 119 million off tickets last year alone. That's bullshit.
There's a report out there today, genuine report.
Sorry. Yeah. Let me just rephrase that. The report from Dov Kleeman, not from Brian O'Leary, is bullshit.
yeah.
I know what I'm talking about. Don't worry. All good.
Yeah.
Okay. Mark, you're going to talk about the Rams and the Saints.
I am going to talk about the Rams and the Saints, Michael. When we talk about disappointment, if I gave you two quarterbacks and said one had just over 1,900 yards, 8 touchdowns, 8 interceptions, and I said the other quarterback had nearly 1,600 yards with 11 touchdowns and 7 interceptions, and told you one was Matthew Stafford and the other was Andy Dalton, I won't even ask you to guess who is who, because you just say, Jesus, Matt Stafford's having a bad year one way or the other here, isn't he? Because he's in a comparison with Andy Dalton, and his TD to interception ratio is pretty poor. The Rams' offense has been bad this year. It has not been the Super Bowl winners that we thought. And obviously, the news in the last day or so is that it's going to get even worse, because the one thing they had, no matter what, was Cooper Kupp. Well, guess who's getting surgery on his ankle and has moved to injured reserve? That's right, it's Cooper Kupp. So whereas in many respects you could call this the disappointment bowl in some regards, especially for the Rams, the reality is that their season is just getting worse. And I know I made the joke the other day, but it's very true. Do you think the Rams start off at half or every day with Sean McVay and Aaron Donald having a conversation saying which one regrets coming back more than the other? And should they have not retired and gone off into the sunset with that special day in SoFi back in the day? The reality is the Saints have more chance at this point in time of making the playoffs. The Saints actually are in, believe it or not, the worst division, as bad as the AFC West, the NFC West has been. And the Saints, even with the Red Rocket, are going to be my pick to beat a struggling Rams team who are down their number one weapon in all of the NFL. So, Saints to win.
Saints as well, yeah.
Saints for me.
Rams. Okay, I'm going to talk about the Commanders and the Texans. Over the last few moments, actually, it's been announced by Riverboat Ron that Taylor Heineke will start the game, so that's who I'm going to talk about. Taylor Heineke has given this team reason to live over the last few weeks. I think he's watched 3-1 as a starter. Please correct me if I'm wrong there, lads. I was so impressed with the way he played against Philadelphia in his role on Monday night. The belief that he gives his players, the belief that he gives his locker room is outstanding. And I think the Commanders go on a run now. They're sitting at 5-5 in the NFC East, and I think when you've got Scary Terry coming back into it, and with Brian Robinson as well, there's so much they can do. The Texans are the Texans, and that's all I really have to say about it. I had the Commanders winning this game by 14 points, and 6 weeks ago, whenever Carson Wentz was in a quarterback and we were all laughing, they've come a long way, and you have to give it to Ron Rivera. Obviously, an emotional night for him on Monday. you'd like to see them make a run. Imagine all the NFC East teams finish with a winning record. That would be the first in a while. So, yeah, I'll take the Commanders.
Commanders.
Scary unanimous decision of death. The Commanders.
They win on Sunday. Sorry, Michael. They win on Sunday. I think they were saying that all 4 teams in this position would be, from the NFC East, would be in the playoffs because of the record. If the season ended on Sunday.
Cowboys are 6-3 going up against the Vikings that are 8-1. It's game of the week as far as I'm concerned. Probably one of the games of the season so far in terms of the expectation. It's great to see, I guess, in my lifetime, a team like the Cowboys actually, well, we say this every year now at this point, but actually have a chance going into January. I've never really witnessed something like that, so I guess it'd be cool to see that going down the stretch. Vikings column are excellent. Obviously, we had the chance to speak to Kevin O'Connell pre-season. Been very impressed with the way they fought against the Bills last week, and Justin Jefferson had one of the best catches in the history of the league last week. He's the best in his position. He's probably one of the best players, if not the best player in the league. This game has a really interesting feel to it because the Cowboys suddenly go 6-4 very quickly if they lose this game, and it takes away from 2 weeks ago going into Green Bay at 6-2, a different sort of dynamic, a different look to the season for them. But I think they'll be confident in how they're playing, and they'll want to go into Minnesota and put it up against them.
Yeah, and I think they'll certainly back up in the Great White North, and wanting to right the mistakes of last weekend. Talked about it a bit on the show on Monday. For me, the biggest issue for the Cowboys is the way in which they misused Mike Parsons. Mike Parsons is phenomenal talent. He's a game wrecker, and you just have to play him at edge, allow him to rush the passer. Do not drop him back to play inside linebacker. I thought that was a mistake. In terms of the Cowboys, it's a bit like the Chargers in certain respects, although I would have Herbert ahead of Dak, but the weapons, particularly at wide receiver, I would say that the Cowboys have a much better tight end, but at wide receiver, CeeDee Lamb is a very good receiver, but is he a true elite WR1? I'm not sure about that, and I think they lack a real kind of speedster, a deep threat to worry defenses. The Vikings, I mean, they have been enormously impressive. They have certainly played in a huge number of close games. They have found ways to come back when they have been down. A lot of that you feel from the videos that you see in the dressing room is down to Kevin O'Connell and the players responding to him. It could be a bit of a trap game for the Vikings because the emotion in last week's victory, like there's no way they should have won that game, given the way in which the Bills turned the ball over on the snap to give away the touchdown. I just don't know if the Cowboys have enough to take advantage of it. They could, but I'm going to say that Kirk Cousins, despite the fact that it isn't an early window game, that Kirk Cousins and the Vikings get the win.
If Kevin O'Connell wants any extra motivation for this game, just pull out the betting line. The bookies in Vegas still don't have the faith in an 8-1 side, and in the Minnesota Vikings, the Cowboys are favourites going into this game. Probably large parts down to what people perceive to be a kind of a dubious secondary that the Vikings have. They're allowing 72% of red zone opportunities to go in for touchdowns, and players have put up big numbers against them in terms of wide receivers and stuff, so I can see why it would be an explosive game. The X factor is Jefferson. The Cowboys' weakest link still is the run game. It hasn't been corrected. Dalvin Cook, we saw last week how explosive he was. He had explosive one in Miami a couple of weeks ago. If he goes off in one, I think it's going to be a very difficult day for the Cowboys. I'm also with the Vikings. I think the Vikings will find a way to get over the line and improve to 9-1.
So first of all, this needs a health warning. This game needs a health warning. And the warning is this. The Cowboys, for the last 10, God knows, in my lifetime, you can never trust them when it comes to gambling. You can't. They lose the games they're expected to win. They win the games they're expected to lose. The Vikings are right there with them. I've told you at the start of the season, lads, the betting rules involved Never bet again on a game involving the Cowboys. Never bet on a game involving the Vikings. Now, the Cowboys-Vikings, this is the encapsulation of everything that we should steer away from and avoid like the plague when it comes to gambling. Hermes himself would not have come up with this as the god of gambling. He would have said, like, this is just wrong. Stay away and please don't bet on it. Frankly, I'm not convinced in either of these things still. And yes, Minnesota just won a spectacular game where you kind of say, we proved ourselves in many respects. No, they haven't. I still think they're the most overrated, unrealistic 8-1 team that has been in the NFL for many years. And they still have a long way to go to prove things. And of course, prove it in the offseason and the postseason, and the Super Bowl is most important. Last week was spectacular. One of the best regular seasons potentially of all time, with the drama, with the swings, with the just the sheer greatness of play from Justin Jefferson, least we ever forget, and at least we never reference enough. But I worry that the Vikings could get exposed at some point. They actually played a team last week. We said it earlier on. They're one-dimensional. They knew how to defend against them. The Cowboys, for all their sins, are not one-dimensional in their offense. They have it. They can fling the ball around, and yes, I can accept the doubts about CeeDee Lamb, but they can run it as well. Possibly more from Tony Pollard than Ezekiel Elliott, if rumors to be believed again into next season. So it seemed to make much more sense to hold on to him and let Elliott cut the way they've been performing this season so far. With all those warnings being reflected, and I warn everybody never to bet on this game at all, and especially don't follow my picks. I can't get out of my head the performance of Justin Jefferson last week. I can't get out of my head the performance by the Vikings when it really mattered, even though they relied upon one of the most freakish plays I've ever seen in the NFL to actually end up winning the game. Overall, Patrick Peterson will do and match what Diggs does on the other side for the Cowboys. And I'm going Vikings. Sorry. And I'll change my mind 6 more times before Sunday, but I'll go Vikings at the moment.
Watched the all 22 of this game. Of the Cowboys-Packers game last night, and the thing that really surprised me was 2 things: how poor they were in third down against the Packers, and also how poor Dak Prescott was whenever he had space. 2 interceptions, but the interceptions were really, really poor. And I thought that he is showing a bit more athleticism from coming back after Cooper Rush came in, but the Cowboys are still relying far too much on the run. And when you've got Tony Pollard there, who had 120 yards rushing last week, obviously you're going to do that, but there needs to be more balls down the field. Like, Dak needs to try and have more confidence in what he can do. I mean, he had 260 yards passing last week, but he could easily, from looking at some of the plays, he could easily have more than that. Whenever CeeDee Lamb comes into the game, yes, he got 150 last week. He's so effective, and he can really, on Sunday, put a marker down against the Vikings and shut them up. I wouldn't say I'm as far gone as Mark there on the Vikings. I wouldn't rate them as much as the Eagles in any way, shape or form, because some of the teams that the Vikings have beat, and in the manner in which they've beaten them, they deserve to be. Look, they're 8-1. They've won the games. They deserve to be. Like any team that has 7 or 8 wins in the league this season. But something just tells me Dallas gets it done on Sunday. I'm sure Fox will want that to happen. So I think I really hope it's a high scoring game, but I'd like to see a really, really good game. And I think they'll probably get it done relying on the run. And I agree. I think Elliott's done in Dallas. It's Tony Pollard's team. He's a hell of a player, lads. Cowboys for me on Sunday.
Yeah, Michael, just to wrap us up, I was going to double in on Colin's point, because I think you saying about the All-22 film and some of the things that became apparent on the Cowboys on defense isn't just that they were playing Micah Parsons off the line as a linebacker more than on the edge. It was actually how exposed they were leaving him in the run game. Almost in impossible situations. The D-line, the whole defensive scheme against the Packers run game, which has been exposed and kind of called out quite a few times on Monday and Tuesday in the media, was shocking. I mean, they can't scheme that badly twice in a row, you would think. So that's surely something that they're going to correct, at least in relation to it. And going against Dalvin Cook, they're going to have to.
This guy's been watching the game too. I love it. And Bengals playing the Steelers, Colin, 9:25 on Sunday. The Bengals are wearing their all white uniforms. If anybody, I like the helmet. What do you think, Colin?
Yeah, people definitely enjoy the discussing the various uniform combinations and whatnot. I think this is obviously, look, the last time out, the Bengals were phenomenal. Joe Mixon was brilliant. I don't believe that the Steelers will give Mixon and Burrow as much time. Um, it, the issue for the Steelers is, scoring enough points. And while I do think that the Bengals are, as much as the Panthers game might suggest otherwise, I do, they're not as explosive when they don't have Jamar Chase. Chase is, and it's partly the trust he has of Burrow, but part of what makes Chase and the Bengals so incredible is his ability to just go up in traffic. So you can have two guys on him, and Burrow just trusts him enough to just put the ball up there, and that means that and they weren't doing that so early in the season, but they got more into that, and that stretches defenses, right? When you have that ability, and you're seeing Kirk Cousins do that a little bit more with Justin Jefferson now, but that in turn stretches defenses. They don't quite have that, obviously, when Chase isn't there. I think this will be a real kind of old school divisional matchup, but with the Steelers just looking to get to Burrow, I'm going to go with the Bengals. But Magical Mike Tomlin could do it for the Steelers. I wouldn't be shocked if that were to happen. But I think that the Bengals want to keep the train on the tracks going in the right direction, and they will have enough to do that.
This game will have a very unfamiliar look about it because the Steelers are also wearing their colour rush jerseys in this game, which is quite unusual to see both teams going in different colour jerseys. I think the Bengals, despite having a bit of a rebound after a difficult start to the season, will still be stewing off that week one loss in which they had numerous opportunities to win the game and missed field goals and last second touchdowns not given them, should have been challenged and all the rest that went with that game. I actually think this is one of the blowouts of the weekend. I think the Bengals, despite it being a tough divisional game, and we've seen many a close game over the years, coming off the bye week, I think the Bengals will blow the Steelers out.
So we always say divisional games are tight, and we say divisional games are difficult. You're saying playing the same team twice a year, every year, you get to know the personnel, the scheming, the approach. Even when new coaches come in, it still becomes hard to call, and it's never straightforward. The Bengals last year, the key thing that fueled their run to the Super Bowl is they went 6-0 in the AFC North. Slight problem from this year. At the moment, they're 0-3. They've lost to the Ravens, they've lost to the Steelers, and they've lost to the Browns. And Brian rightly mentions the 23-20 loss in the opening day of the season. And that Steelers team, if you like, has gone through an entire evolution through then. They lost TJ Watt for a vast portion of the season. Obviously came back last week, starting to make was last week, wasn't the week before. Yeah, it was last week. Starting to make his influence felt again. And of course, they've made the fundamental change at quarterback, bringing in Kenny Misdemeanor Elliott Pickett. Sorry, he's trying to throw it to Pickens. Chase changes the category though from the Bengals' perspective, and whilst I've not been overawed by Kenny Pickett's kind of performance thus far in a Steelers jersey, they're finding a way to grind it out. They grinded it out last week with a couple of rushes from Pickens and Pickett. So, much as the Bengals keep trying to keep pressure on the Ravens, much as the Bengals, I think, are still going to assert their claim at least to a wild card, if not compete for the AFC North. I think they've got the hoodoo voodoo on them when it comes to divisional games this year. Steelers at home. Steelers starting to try and find a mojo. Mike Tomlin still weaving some black magic around the place. A little mixed style. And Steelers win. Go for it. Steelers win.
I'll keep this one short and sweet. T. Higgins, Joe Mixon, Tyler Boyd, Hayden Hurst, Trent Taylor, no Jamar Chase, no problems. The Steelers are not going to win this game on Sunday. The Bengals are going to wipe them out 35-7. And the 7 points will come at the end whenever Burrow's been benched, because there's no point. One game that is going to be really exciting to talk about is Sunday Night Football. I'm really, really excited for this game because this could literally either tie up the West for the Chiefs or it could blow it open. The Chargers, column are 5-4, going to Arrowhead, or whatever it's called this week, Gee Half-Field, taking on a 7-2. The game is in SoFi Stadium, isn't it? So the game is in SoFi. The game was at Arrowhead in week 2 of the season for the first Thursday Night Football game, which is a really, really entertaining game. Game was close enough to the end. Obviously Patrick Mahomes last week looked absolutely phenomenal. This is a huge game for both teams. Chiefs don't want to pull away. Chargers trying to put a marker down to try and save what's left of a push for that division, because it can't happen, because the Chiefs have a difficult enough end to the season if teams do play against them in certain ways. So really looking forward to this game on Sunday.
Yeah, and the Chargers obviously were super competitive against the 49ers, and that was given the number of players they were missing, but that was all down to Herbert. I mean, he is a truly, truly special talent, and it's just a shame that the Chargers haven't been able to put more talent around him. The guys that Keenan Allen has been out injured. Talked about Mike Williams and my reservations on him, and the lack of a speedster and the lack of a real tight end. But you're always in with a puncher's chance when you have Herbert as your quarterback, because nothing phases him. He'll just go out and continue to play his game. I think we're beginning to see he's playing less restricted from the injury that he had. And this is a divisional game. So I imagine, I do think that makes a difference. But the Chiefs and Patrick Mahomes have been finding ways to win all season. They brought in Kadarius Toney. He seems to have given them kind of a new option because he is so skillful. And the other thing for the Chargers is I think the offensive play calling has not helped Herbert in any way, shape, or form. I wanted their OC in The Hague a few weeks ago. I don't think that has changed. For me, expect Herbert to do wonderful things, but given the supporting cast that Mahomes has, and with Andy Reid there, and with Patrick Mahomes' own ability, I believe the Chiefs will win
it. Colin was calling out many of the points I was going to make around the fact that whilst Herbert is a great quarterback, the limitations offensively and the play calling has been quite very precarious. They haven't scored over 23 points in a month, and for a team that was going into the season and everybody was speaking so glowingly about the amount of players that they had available to them, Carter and Palmer have stepped in, and they haven't really shown the same production in which you get from Keenan Allen, who, to be honest, at this stage of his career, will they keep him? Because he's never on the field anymore. And Williams, again, has been paid like he's the number one receiver. Colin was called out numerous times that he doesn't play like he's a number one receiver. I look at the Chiefs, and for me this would be a massive shock. I know it's a divisional game, but for the Chargers to win this game, bearing in mind how poorly they've been playing in offense, going up against a Chiefs team that are so explosive. And if they do win this game, there are 3 games in front with teams with losing records, such as the Broncos twice, the Raiders, the Texans to play, and the Rams to play. Essentially would lock up the division. 3 games clear, tie break over the Chargers as well. It's a big game for the Chiefs. I think they know that it'll be all pointing towards securing the number 1 seed if they do win this game, and I believe they will. I think they'll go in there. They beat them last season in overtime. I don't even think it'll be a game as close to be going towards overtime in the 4th quarter. I think the Chiefs will win comfortably.
The Chargers' woes when it comes to injuries continue. I mean, just to recap, of course, Joey Bosa's already on IR. JC Jackson, their very expensive free agent pickup at cornerback, is on IR. They've now 3 defensive linemen on IR, with 2 going on this week, including Covington. They're just not built enough. I mean, what team is to suffer all of these injuries and keep on trucking? And their performance last few weeks has been pretty poor. I mean, they've lost a couple, but even the games they've won, they haven't won a game by more than a field goal since week 4. They've squeaked by the Browns, squeaked by the Broncos, squeaked by the Falcons, and potentially can make an argument they should have lost all 3 of those games. There were scenarios in all 3 of those games where it could have easily gone the other way. They are designed to cause heart attacks to their fan base. They're definitely pushing things to the edge. And what Colin just said about the OC, I fully agree with. I think that's there's been some kind of GBH he's almost committed against Justin Herbert and the entire offense this season in the way some of the play calling has been. The reality is the Chiefs have been going in the opposite direction ever since their week 2 game, which is called, that was a great game, very close. And then the following week, the Chiefs lost to the Colts. They've turned it around. They've got really consistent. They've only lost since obviously it was the Bills, in a really cracking game. And certainly the last 3 weeks, it seems like they're putting the motor into gear and kicking on with all 4 tires on the road. Yes, it's a divisional game. Yes, they're at home and everything's going so smoothly you could consider it a track game. But I just don't see that the Chargers, with all the injuries and everything, have enough fuel in the tank to really cause difficulty in this particular regard. I see the Chiefs winning this actually, and it's always dangerous to say on the divisional game, by 2-3 touchdowns. It's going to be a walk in the park.
The game in SoFi last year was really such a fun game to watch. Hell, the game in Arrowhead in week 2 was really, really fun to watch, and it sort of goes into that there, regardless who plays at home or away, this Kansas City Chiefs LA Chargers rivalry, the evolution of different dynamic types of quarterback in Patrick Mahomes and Justin Herbert shows that the new era of the quarterback has begun in this league, and I know we'll be watching these two play each other for years to come. And I guess you got to look at the sort of nagging injuries that Keenan Allen, Mike Williams, Joey Bosa has, and you have to ask yourself, is there too much there for them? The thing is, though, they've been really struggling with injuries over the last few weeks, and they have found a way to remain competitive. I think this game on Sunday will be more close than what we're saying here. I do think it'll be a bit of a fight. At the end of the day, in the AFC West, the Raiders and the Broncos have got off to a shocking start. And the one thing that we didn't get to talk about in the quickfire is I had said to Colin on a different podcast earlier, I think it'll be a blowout for the Raiders, and I think one of them will go in terms of those head coaches. But back to this game, outside of that, they're playing for second place in the West at the minute. But like the narrative completely changes for the Chargers if they beat the Chiefs this Sunday. They're one game out on the Chiefs, so that is, if you need any sort of motivation to play the game, that is all you need. Great duels, great battles is what we associate and accustom ourselves with when it comes to Patrick Mahomes and Justin Herbert. I think the injuries are going to be a little bit too much for them. I'll take the Chiefs winning 27-24. I think it'll be a very, very close game. I think it'll be a hell of a game, and please God we get a good game on Sunday Night Football before we get the game in Mexico on Monday. I'll take the Chiefs to win 27-24.
So do the Chargers have any home games? It's my only comment as well.
No, they don't.
It's always the case. They always get drowned out. Poor Chargers. Poor Justin Herbert.
If certain results go the way, and again, it's those permutations, but if the results go a particular way on Sunday and the Chargers were to lose, they could drop down to 11th spot in terms of the order of teams looking to get into the playoffs. And as Michael's rightly called out, they win on Sunday, they're only one game out of the division. It's so tight at the moment within the AFC, you can literally flip-flop from one scenario to the other very quickly.
Almost as tight as a Calvin man or woman. Okay, that is us for week 11 of the season. You can catch up with the podcast now if you're listening to different segments. Just check it out. Just search Irish NFL Show. We'll be back on Monday night at 9 o'clock to look ahead to the Chiefs game in Mexico the Niners game in Mexico against the Arizona Cardinals. See you then, lads.